Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into the worn-out sandals of a Silk Road merchant, just as the first pink streaks of dawn touch the mud brick walls of Samarkand. You blink against the dust, because of course it's dusty, and stretch your legs under a wool blanket that smells faintly of camel. Around you, the caravan stirs, drivers muttering in Sogdian, the clank of tin cups, and the slow, grumpy moans of Bactrian camels who've definitely had enough of your nonsense. One sneezes directly onto your spice sacks, and you sigh. This is your life now. Speaking of spices, those little luxuries that made kings weep and sailors risk shipwrecks, you're guarding a load of cinnamon so valuable, bandits would happily slit your throat for a whiff of it. Pro tip: if a guy named One-Eyed Mahmud offers to help repack your cargo, run. But for now, the danger's low. The real threat? The merchant snoring beside you sounds like a dying water buffalo. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is. Is it 3 a.m. in Toronto? High noon in Jakarta? Either way, you're in good company. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The air in Samarkand hums with the kind of dry heat that makes your lips crack by noon. You tighten your sash, partly for style, partly to keep your dagger from clattering, and squint at the ledger in your hands. It's a mess of numbers, hastily scribbled in black ink. 40 sacks of pepper, 12 of cardamom, 7 of something labelled mystery powder. Smells like old socks. You make a mental note to fire your scribe. Around you, the market square is a symphony of haggling. A Persian trader waves a lump of asafoetida under a customer's nose, shouting, "One sniff cures melancholy, 2 sniffs cures marriage." Historians still argue whether this pungent resin was actually used as medicine or just medieval trolling. Meanwhile, a Chinese envoy examines bolts of silk with the intensity of a cat judging a suspicious cucumber. Your job? Keep the spices safe until the camels are loaded. Simple, except, oh, here comes the local tax collector, a man whose smile is as genuine as a 3 drachma coin. He eyes your cargo. Ah, my friend, you look like a man who adores paperwork. You groan. This'll take hours. But let's pause here. Because what you're guarding isn't just cargo. That pepper? In Rome, it's worth more than gold by weight. The cinnamon? Legend says it's harvested from nests built by giant birds at the edge of the world. Spoiler, it's just tree bark, but let the suckers believe. And the cardamom? Chew a pod, and your breath will smell like a sultan's pillow. As the tax collector drones on about import fees, you notice a boy slipping a handful of cloves into his sleeve. You let him go. Kid's got guts. Besides, his pockets probably smell amazing now. The saffron heist wasn't some grand, dramatic affair. It was pure, sleepy desperation. Picture this. You're a Persian merchant named Farhad, because of course you are, and you've just spent 6 months trekking across mountains so high your ears won't stop popping, all to deliver a single pound of saffron to a Byzantine noble who's really into yellow rice. Problem? The local warlord has decreed that all saffron must be donated to his new summer palace. Translation: he wants his curtains to match his ego. So now you're crouched behind a dye merchant's stall at midnight, hollowing out your walking stick with a spoon. The spoon is bent. Your hands smell like sheep. This is the worst business trip. Saffron, for those who've never pawned a kidney for it, is the dried stigma of a crocus flower. It takes 75,000 flowers to make 1 pound. That's right, your entire cargo is basically flower genitalia. No wonder it's expensive. You stuff the threads into the stick, seal it with beeswax, and casually limp toward the city gates. The guard eyes your crippled old man act. "Nice stick," he says. You sweat. "Thanks. It's my emotional support stick," he nods solemnly. Historians still argue whether guards were genuinely this gullible or just really underpaid. Meanwhile, back in Constantinople, your buyer is hosting a dinner party where guests are literally eating gold leaf. A poet recites verses comparing the host's generosity to the sun's embrace. You arrive, hand over the stick, and whisper, "Twist the knob." He does. Saffron rains onto the marble floor. The room gasps. The poet faints. You're already calculating how many camels this'll buy. Answer 3. But one's got a limp. Pepper as currency sounds like a joke until you're a Roman legionnaire stationed in Britannia, shivering in your sandals, being handed a pay pouch that rattles suspiciously. You dump it out. 5 peppercorns roll into your palm. "Congratulations," your centurion says, slapping your back like a man who absolutely got paid in actual coins. "You're rich." Probably. Here's the thing. Rome was obsessed with pepper. They sprinkled it on everything from peacock tongues to wine. Yes, really. A pound of black pepper could buy a decent horse. A sack of it? That was retirement money. So when the treasury ran low on silver, some genius decided, hey, let's pay the army in spices. Historians still argue whether this was economic innovation or just ancient HR trolling. You stare at your peppercorns. They stare back. One is slightly dented. "Can I eat these?" you ask. The centurion shrugs. You can try, but fair warning. Publius bit one last week, and now he hallucinates talking badgers. Meanwhile, back in Rome, Emperor Domitian is building a Horia Praetoria, a giant pepper warehouse, because nothing says stable economy like a national spice reserve. The vaults are guarded by ex-gladiators who definitely don't snack on the inventory. They do. You pocket your peppercorns. Maybe you'll trade them for socks or a girlfriend. The local Britons think pepper is weird foreign dirt. But hey, that just means more for you. As you walk away, you hear the centurion call after you. Don't spend it all in one place. Too late. You've already mentally traded 1 peppercorn for a slightly less mouldy blanket. You'd think Silk Road merchants dined like kings. Saffron-infused lamb, cinnamon-dusted sweets, the occasional peacock stuffed with rare spices. The reality: your lunch is a stale flatbread that could double as roof tiling, and a handful of dates that may or may not contain bonus protein, read weevils. Welcome to Silk Road Snacks, the bland truth. The problem isn't access to spices. You're literally swimming in them. It's that no trader in their right mind would eat the profit. That pepper sack, that's a down payment on a house. That cinnamon, your future wife's dowry. She's okay with this arrangement. So you survive on what locals call road rations. Unleavened bread harder than a tax collector's heart, salted fish that smells like regret, and an ominous brown paste politely labelled lentil surprise. Occasionally, if you're near a caravanserai, you might splurge on pasta, not the Italian kind, but Central Asian lakman noodles, slurped hastily while keeping one hand on your money belt. The Uzbek cook gives you extra onions for strength. His breath could melt iron. You thank him through watery eyes. Historians still argue whether the famous Silk Road diet caused more deaths than bandits. That lentil surprise was frequently surprising. But here's a fun fact. Many traders carried garlic, not to eat, but to ward off evil spirits. Joke's on them. After a month of your diet, even demons would avoid your breath. The monsoon winds arrive like a drunken uncle, loud, unpredictable, and prone to destroying your best plans. One minute you're lounging on deck, watching dolphins leap beside your ship. The next, the horizon tilts violently as a wall of rain slaps your cinnamon cargo into the Arabian Sea. Well, your captain sighs, there goes our retirement. Welcome to the Hijra season, when Indian Ocean traders played the world's worst game of roulette. Sail too early. The winds haven't shifted, and you'll spend 3 months rowing in circles like a disoriented duck. Sail too late? Congratulations, you're now part of a new underwater coral reef exhibit. Your ship, the Grumpy Lotus, is currently heeled over at an angle that would make a goat nervous. Below deck, the cinnamon bales are sweating like nervous debutantes. That spicy woody scent you loved in Calicut? Now it's the olfactory equivalent of regret. The first whiff of mildew means half your cargo's value just evaporated, along with your dreams of owning that vineyard in Crete. Historians still argue whether monsoon traders actually believed in wind magic, or just really needed an excuse for bad decisions. That sacred rooster they brought aboard? Definitely just dinner. Meanwhile, the Gujarati sailor next to you is calmly reciting prayers to a small wooden horse. For balance, he explains. You nod solemnly and clutch your own lucky charm, a copper coin you're pretty sure is a washer. As waves crash over the bow, the cook announces lunch, fermented fish stew. It sloshes ominously in its pot. The captain shouts over the storm, "Eat up! Last meal for some of us." He laughs. You don't. That cinnamon bale bobbing away in the distance. Call it a sacrifice to Poseidon. The Byzantine Emperor Justinian had a dream to control the entire world's cardamom supply. Not for the aroma, not for the flavour, but because his wife Theodora once casually mentioned it made her hair shine. Thus began history's most absurd spice monopoly attempt, aka the Cardamom Conspiracy. You're a disgraced former spice inspector, long story, involving a camel and some falsified pepper logs, when imperial agents drag you into a marble chamber smelling strongly of panic and lavender oil. A bureaucrat thrusts a scroll at you. "We need you to sneak into Axum," he whispers, "and bribe, steal, or seduce their cardamom growers into working for us." You blink. "Seduce?" He shrugs. Theodora wants what she wants. The plan is laughable. Travel to Ethiopia disguised as a spice monk, a real thing apparently. Convince farmers their cardamom belongs in Constantinople. Somehow avoid the Aksumite king's legendary wrath. He once turned a tax evader into a human sundial. Your cover lasts exactly 1 afternoon. The local growers take one look at your clumsy attempts to harvest cardamom pods and laugh so hard they drop their baskets. Byzantines, one wheezes, wiping tears, think spices grow in palaces. Historians still argue whether Justinian's agents actually smuggled out cardamom seedlings in their beards. Spoiler, they tried. The camels ate them. Meanwhile, back in Constantinople, Theodora receives your failure report. She sighs, orders the execution of 3 perfectly innocent gardeners, and switches to cinnamon. The ghost ports of Yemen whisper as you walk their crumbling docks. Your sandals kick up puffs of frankincense dust, centuries of spilled cargo still scenting the air. A half-buried amphora protrudes from the sand like a forgotten promise. This was once the busiest harbour on Earth. Now, just you, the gulls, and the ghosts of 1,000 perfume merchants who died waiting for ships that never came. Frankincense was the iPhone of antiquity. Everyone needed it. No one knew how it worked. Temples burned it to cover the smell of sacrifices. Egyptians used it for embalming, and possibly as breath mints. Roman socialites rubbed it on their thighs because some philosopher claimed it prevented wrinkles. The demand was endless, until suddenly it wasn't. You crouch to examine a shard of pottery. The glaze still bears the fingerprint of some long-dead dock worker who packed these resins with care. What happened here? Blame geography and bad luck. When Rome converted to Christianity, altar smoke went out of fashion. Then the Sassanids blockaded the routes. Then some genius in India figured out how to grow inferior frankincense trees. Historians still argue whether the last merchant to leave locked his warehouse. The sand says yes. As sunset stains the ruins gold, you swear you hear voices bargaining in Sabaean. A wave crashes. The moment passes. You pocket a resin tear, not to sell, but to remember when the world ran on perfume and prayers. The camel's breath hits you like a fermented date smoothie as you pry open its mouth to inspect the damage. Yep, your caravan master declares that's a cracked molar. Congratulations, you're now a Silk Road dentist. Welcome to Camel Dentistry, the real reason spice prices fluctuated. That grumpy Bactrian currently drooling on your sleeve is lucky. A cruel joke. He's bitten 3 owners. His chewing problem means he can't properly grind the thorny desert shrubs that fuel these walking freight trains. No eating means no walking. No walking means your pepper sits in Kashgar until the bandits find it. You rummage through the medicine bag for the cure. A copper spoon, bent. Rancid sheep fat, allegedly soothing. A suspicious brown powder labelled tooth dust, do not inhale. The treatment goes as well as expected. Lucky headbutts you into a sand dune. The sheep fat attracts ants, and the tooth dust, turns out it's just ground mummy bones. Thanks, Egyptian traders. Historians still argue whether caravan dentists ever successfully treated anything. The leading theory: camels healed despite human intervention. As you spit out sand, a passing merchant offers real advice. For toothaches, we sing to them. You stare. He demonstrates an off-key ballad about date palms. Miraculously, Lucky stops groaning. Either it worked or the camel died internally. You add veterinary chanteuse to your resume. Somewhere, your mother weeps. The nutmeg groves of the Banda Islands were the stuff of legend. A tiny archipelago so valuable, European maps deliberately misplaced them for centuries. As your ship finally spots the emerald peaks through the morning mist, you understand why. The air itself smells like Christmas and greed. Your Portuguese captain, who definitely isn't lost, announces the rules. Don't touch the trees. Don't ask about the chains around the trunks. Absolutely do not mention the Dutch local growers. Eye your crew like you're the 4th plague. They've seen this before. The wide-eyed foreigners, the clumsy attempts at theft, the inevitable bloodshed. One elder demonstrates how to harvest nutmeg, a precise twist of the fruit to avoid damaging the precious mace, that red lace-like covering. You try. The fruit squirts in your face. The children laugh. Historians still argue whether nutmeg's hallucinogenic properties were known to medieval traders. The answer, absolutely. That spice fever merchants reported. Just bad trips. As you help load sacks of the aromatic seeds, you notice something odd. Every local wears a nutmeg pendant. For protection, explains a boy. From what? He points to your ship. Ah, by sunset, your hold is full. The captain toasts with arak. The islands recede behind you. Behind them, unseen, Dutch ships approach. Within a decade, the Bandas will be a slaughterhouse. But tonight, the nutmeg still grows wild, and the trees don't yet weep. The Tang dynasty bureaucrat across from you hasn't blinked in 17 minutes. His brush hovers over your cargo manifest like a vulture eyeing a dying gazelle. This says, "Pepper for paperwork." He deadpans. You nod enthusiastically. Yes, excellent trade, very official. Welcome to Paper and Pepper, China's bureaucratic spice rack. While Rome was busy paying soldiers in peppercorns, the Tang Empire was using black gold to grease the wheels of government. Need a tax break? A kilo of pepper could lose your records. Want a promotion? A well-timed gift of Sichuan peppercorns. Made superiors conveniently forget your opium habit. Your current predicament stems from a creative accounting error. Specifically, your claim that 300 pounds of pepper fell into a river, the river being your cousin's warehouse. The bureaucrat's eyebrow arches. Which river? You sweat. The yellow one? He sighs, dips his brush, and begins writing your fine in beautiful, damning calligraphy. Historians still argue whether the Tang government's pepper reserves exceeded their silver. The 742nd audit found 3 warehouses mysteriously labelled "Dragon's Sneezes, Do Not Open." As you're leaving, a clerk whispers the real power move. Next time, bring cloves. The Minister of Rights has terrible toothache. You exit into Chang'an's bustling streets, where a spice merchant's cart has overturned. Peppercorns bounce like hail. Officials scramble. You pocket a handful. Some traditions never change. The campfire pops as you huddle closer, your back against a bale of ginger that may or may not be crawling. Across the flames, old Suleiman clears his throat, the universal signal for time to scare the new guy. "Ever hear why we don't camp near the Tarim mummies?" he asks, tossing a twig into the fire. The shadows stretch like hungry ghosts. Silk Road bedtime stories weren't for children. They were merchant survival tools. That tale about the caravan swallowed by singing sand? Actually, about avoiding dunes with unstable foundations. The legend of the jade-eating demon. A metaphor for greedy tax collectors. And Suleiman's personal favourite, the yarn about the spice trader who married a scorpion princess, was basically an HR training video about contract law. You jump as something skitters past your foot. "Relax," laughs the Sogdian horse trader. "Just a death beetle, just. Their bite makes your flesh rot slowly while you watch." Lovely. Suleiman continues his story about the mummy's curse, which you realise halfway through is actually about proper salt ratios for preserving goods. Historians still argue whether these tales contained coded trade routes. That dragon guarding a pass? Probably just a very territorial goat. As the fire dies, someone starts a new story. Something about mirrors and moon ghosts. You pull your blanket tighter. The ginger bale definitely moved. The apothecary's sign creaks ominously. Dragon's tongue. Cures all ills, probably. Inside, a sweating German merchant is waving a ginger root the size of a baby's arm. This, he declares, is the actual tongue of a dragon slain by St. George. The crowd gasps. You facepalm so hard your turban slips. Welcome to the Great Ginger Fake-Out, where medieval Europe's spice ignorance created the world's most profitable game of telephone. Somewhere between India and Frankfurt, plain old Zingiber Officinale transformed into a mythical cure-all. Rub it on your scalp for hair growth. It burns. Carry it to ward off plague. It doesn't. Boil it with mercury for eternal youth. You die. The apothecary's shelves groan under jars of dragon products, scales, palm bark, tears, amber resin, and the pièce de résistance, a dragon egg that's clearly a coconut someone drew scales on. You watch as a noblewoman pays 6 silver marks for a thumb-sized ginger piece. Her servant whispers, "My lady, this is just..." Hush, Greta. Magic requires faith. Historians still argue whether merchants actually believed their own hype. The 1,392nd ledger of one Hans Gruber includes an expense for dragon bait, 3 chickens, slightly used. As you leave, a street urchin tugs your sleeve. Psst, real dragon tongue? He opens his palm to reveal actual ginger. You buy it. It's terrible. The Arabic scroll clearly says karanful, cloves. The Armenian translator wrote karafs, celery. Now you're standing in a freezing Kiev marketplace, holding a crate of suspiciously green stalks, while a Varangian guard glares. "Where," he growls, "are my spices?" Welcome to Lost in Translation, how one vowel doomed Eastern Europe to bland food. Somewhere between Baghdad and the Baltic, a weary scholar misread a diacritical mark, and now an entire Russ's wedding feast will taste like wet hay. The bride's father examines your cloves with mounting horror. You expect me to serve this to Grand Prince Vladimir? Your attempts to explain morph into a pantomime that makes you look like a deranged chicken. The guard's axe twitches. Salvation comes from an unexpected quarter. A Mongolian spice trader snorts, tosses the real cloves on the table, and says what everyone's thinking. Idiots. Historians still argue whether this incident sparked the Kiev spice riots of 987. The primary chronicle mentions much weeping over stew. As you slink away, the Mongolian throws you a bag of actual cloves. Next time, he smirks, learn to read. You bite a clove. The numbing warmth spreads. Some mistakes taste better than others. The Venetian spice inspector's magnifying glass hovers over your saffron threads like the sword of Damocles. His nose wrinkles. This, he pronounces, contains exactly 3 strands of real saffron. The rest is soaked marigold petals, and possibly donkey hair. The crowd gasps. Your business partner faints dramatically onto a conveniently placed pile of silk cushions. Welcome to Spice Sack Scandals, a history of creative adulteration. When a single pound of cinnamon could buy a house, merchants got inventive. Your personal recipe involves 1 part actual spice, 3 parts plausible lookalikes. Sawdust equals pepper volume enhancer. A prayer, no one tastes it. The inspector flourishes his spice Bible, a handwritten guide to catching cheats. Page 23 shows how ground nutshells mimic mace. Page 47 reveals the trick of weighting ginger roots with lead pellets. Your own innovation? Soaking low-grade cloves in rosewater and calling them Persian Deluxe. This worked exactly once on a myrrh-sniffing bishop. Historians still argue whether the famous Saffron War of 1374 was really about quality control or just tax evasion. As the inspector stamps your bail with a scarlet F for falsificato, your partner stirs. Perhaps we should go into the olive oil business. You nod. Less scrutiny. The Venetian warehouse smells of ghosts and dust. Your fingertips come away powdered with the last traces of cinnamon from a burst sack, the final shipment before the Portuguese rounded the Cape and broke the Silk Road's spice monopoly forever. Outside, gulls scream over a harbour that no longer chokes with pepper boats. You trace the faded graffiti on the wall, centuries of merchants' marks, now just shadows. A Phoenician's crude dolphin, 300 BC, best dates in town. A Mongol's thumbprint in indigo, paid with captured sapphires. Your great-grandfather's shaky A, Alzheimer's and arsenic. The spice roots didn't die screaming. They faded like this cinnamon scent. One season fewer ships came, then two. Then only the ghosts remembered the prices. That young clerk over there, he'll spend his life selling Baltic flax instead of Malabar pepper. The dockmaster, his grandson will captain a sugar slaver. Nothing ends clean. Historians still argue whether Venice knew this was coming. The Doge's 1490 diary reads, "Dreamt of drowning in nutmeg, woke sneezing." You pocket a single clove from the spill, not to sell, just to remember when the world was wider than ledgers. Word count, 1102. 300-word wind down. The last light fades behind the warehouse beams, painting the dust motes gold one final time. Somewhere out there, the old roots still whisper, caravan tracks under desert stars, monsoon winds filling sails long since rotted, the echo of haggling in 100 dead languages. But here, now, there's only this quiet. Breathe in. That faint ginger and salt scent? That's centuries of merchants leaning on these same walls, worrying about the same things, bandits and tariffs, and whether their wives remarried. They survived. You'll survive. That spreadsheet can wait till morning. Let your eyes close. Picture the greatest spice bazaar never seen. Pepper from Kerala, cinnamon from Ceylon, cloves from Moluccas, all glowing like treasure in some Genoese galley's hold. The sailors sing as the stars turn. The waves rock. The spices breathe. Sleep comes soft as saffron threads falling. The world grows lighter. The numbers blur. Somewhere beyond dreams, a Sogdian trader winks and pours you wine from a vanished vintage. You toast to nothing in particular. The night is warm. The accounts balance. All is well. Sweet dreams.